genuinely don't believe it, but Chapter 2 has officially been released, and I'm going to be looking at every single frame. So at the very beginning we have this thing. First of all, we have a lot of new buildings. I have no idea what this is. That looks like a 2-story warehouse, and by the looks of it, I mean, you can't really tell that much, but that might be the dome shape where the Trashbot sort of lives. I mean, either that or the Trashbot's inside somewhere. I don't know, you can't really tell. I don't even know why I'm looking at that. But that's a warehouse, I think. Now, there's also... that might be some sort of terrain or a building. Can't really tell, it's a blurry mess. And down over here, that could be a building, but I don't think so. It just looks like a tree. And that's all that's really in this frame. As we keep going, things start to get a little bit clearer, I guess. And then the big thing, obviously, is the fact that there's rain and clouds. I can't remember if the vanilla game has clouds or not, but I'm fairly certain we don't. And even if we did, when you go up to the skybox, you just sort of hit the skybox. I've never noticed any clouds, so I wonder what happens if you go high enough to reach these. I don't even know if the game will let us, but I don't know, it's fine. And then of course there's rain. We don't have rain in vanilla, but in Chapter 2, evidently we will. And the other thing with rain is I really hope that it actually changes parts of the game, like with farming, because if it were to, you know, make your crops grow faster, or would it make it so that you don't have to water the crops as often or at all, that would be quite nice. I really hope it's not just purely cosmetic. And then we have thunder, which the thunder effects, they seem really good. They yeah, I mean, that one it's just a little bit, but this one, it goes all the way down. And I also wonder what that's going to look like when you're right next to it on the ground, because that could be interesting. I wonder if that maybe affects vehicles at all. I highly doubt it, but maybe, I don't know. And then here we have the player running. So this is just the default clothing that you get when you start out the game, with just a single shoe running in the rain. You can see the droplet effects on the ground, as well as the raindrops, and all around the graphics just look really nice, especially that lighting. Look at the shadows and the highlights and the fog. It does look really nice. And this is also quite a nice angle. Another thing is, I wonder how they recorded this. I really hope they're going to add some sort of vanilla feature that gives us a free cam, something we can record with, because when it comes to making cinematic videos in this game, I mean, there's a couple mods with cinematic cameras, but nah, they're not that great, really. And then there's this thing. I have no idea what this thing is. As far as I'm aware, we've never seen this in a devlog. This appears to just be a regular old ruins building. I might have seen this one in the past. This is definitely not normal. I don't know what happens if you hit the red thing. Do you die? Do you get damaged? No idea. I don't know why this thing's after you. I have so many questions. But by the looks of it, it's staying afloat by these things. I highly doubt it, but if we could build with these things and make like hot air balloons or airships or stuff like that, that would be sick. So it appears to be chasing the mechanic here. I've got no idea why. And then we have the mechanic station. Nothing's changed there, unfortunately. And yeah, the player's heading into the mechanic station. So it looks like this isn't just a wafer thin block of red. In fact, it's got some thickness to it. I mean, that's what it looks like with these X's. So I guess maybe the further into the red you go, the more you get damaged. But I still have no idea why there's even this thing. I guess it's just a bot. I don't know. Maybe. And is the mechanic station a safe space? Because that's probably why the mechanic's running there. I guess if you have a roof over your head, the laser probably can't reach you. I mean, that's the idea with that. The new chapter is coming. I really hope they're not lying on that one. And then we have this thing. So this is actually the way the new raids are going to get deployed. We saw this in one of the older dev blogs, and the devs, they tend to put in a lot of attention to detail. They spend a lot of time on this game. Or at least I hope that's the case. I really hope I don't regret saying that when chapter 2 comes out and it's like a laggy mess. But yeah, the details are quite nice. Everything sort of fits the aesthetic. Everything looks like it's meant to be. But I do still have some questions about these things. They look like they're using regular thrusters. So, like, can you shoot them out of the sky and harvest the materials? I doubt it. And also, where do they come from? Because my guess is they're just going to sort of appear and just spawn in the same way regular raids do now. But if they have some sort of takeoff site, some sort of building where they all take off from and then make their way over to your base, and depending on how far away it is, the speeds vary, I don't know. But if they had some sort of actual origin, that would be pretty sick. It might also be pretty laggy, I don't know, but we'll see, I guess. But anyway, these are what the new raids are going to look like. And then we have the Trashbot. So this is the sort of dome thing where you fight the Trashbot in. We've seen this in a devlog as well, and it sort of shoots its little trash balls at you and you have to shoot it. It's not on the screen for very long, but yeah, no particle effects, the graphics, we can't see these clouds here. I wonder what those specks are. Are those stars? What's that? It might just be particles. Yeah, I don't know. Strange. As for the rest of the stuff here, well, I mean, it's just a bunch of trash, really. It looks about how you'd expect, which is pretty good for what it is. And then we have this one. So laser beams, laser drilling into rock, spewing out purple things, plus purple sticky wheels, which originally I'm pretty sure they were green. So I'm not sure if this is like a different type of sticky wheel that's just extra sticky. I don't know. What is this? Maybe something to do with this laser thing, maybe to power it, I guess. Correction, we have seen this before in a previous devlog. It's called the Ore Collector, and I'm assuming it does exactly that. It collects ores. And this is the seat thing that uses your mouse controls, I'm pretty sure, that we saw in another devlog, and you can use your mouse to aim around. That would be sick for like vanilla tanks and stuff, because right now we have to use buttons and it works, but it's not great. Suspension wise, that's just regular off-road suspension. I'm not sure why that one has a red bar but this one doesn't. Not entirely sure what's going on there, but like this bit's red but the rest of it is the default color, and then there's red on the bottom. I don't know why that bit's yellow. Strange. Either way, that looks like it's part of the seat. That I've already been over. That's just regular wood block. Those are the new wait, hold on. Why are the wedges that way around? Surely you'd want to angle it. Why is that wedge even there? What's that doing? I don't know, but that's got nothing to do with the new update. That's just this vehicle. Anyway, battery compartment, electric engine, level 5. No new blocks here as far as I can see. But the main attraction here is obviously whatever the hell is going on here. So we can see another vehicle over here. We can get another angle of it. I don't know, is that a chemical? I think that's a chemical container. I think that's how you power the sticky wheels. I think that's what's going on there. That looks to be something else. Might not be new, I don't know. We get another angle on the turret seat thing, and then these drill laser cannon thingies, whatever they are. Interestingly, I don't seem to be able to spot this thing. So maybe this isn't what powers the drills. Maybe this is something completely different entirely. Because either I'm blind or that thing's just not present on this vehicle and it still has a laser powered drill. So that's quite interesting. Anyway, the lighting effects again, the graphics, everything just looks really nice. Like it does. I really hope the actual game looks like this and this isn't just, you know, highly edited, color graded, etc. But yeah, now moving on to the main attraction. No clue what any of this is. I mean, you can't really tell much, but they're drilling into something, and that something is exploding into a bunch of pink spheres, and there's like some blocks, I guess, and other particles, and yeah, that's about all I can really tell. And obviously this is within the new caves, one of the new caves rather, and yeah, you can see them moving. Oh, little explosion there. And we didn't really get to see the rest of it. Anyway, this part, I am very curious as to what on earth that is. My guess is it's a new bot, and it sort of burrows through the ground to attack you. I don't know, maybe, who knows. Just another quick thing I thought I'd mention. These drills have been teased before in devlog number 24, and as you can see, they drill up through the surface or down in a cave, and then the head of the drill pops off and out come a bunch of Trashbot capsules. All we see in these gifs are Trashbot capsules, so I'm assuming that's all they can spawn in. which I'd say is a good thing because they spawn in a lot of them. And in the trailer we can see that there were like 8 of them at once, so things can get quite chaotic quite quickly, assuming that that is what will actually happen in general gameplay, and that that's not something that they've had specifically happen for the trailer. And then well, hammer, mechanic's hand, I have no idea what this is. Is this part of a vehicle? Is this part of the map, terrain? I don't know. That looks new, maybe, I don't know. And all around, this looks more like a tunnel than a cave, really. I think this bit might be man-made. The stuff outside, maybe not so much. What is that? Is that sort of the rest of the cave, maybe? Other stuff you can mine? Maybe that's what the pink stuff earlier looked like before you start shooting at it with laser drills or whatever those things are. But yeah, other than that, I can't really see much else over here. The caves look extremely interesting. I cannot wait to try those out. Anyway, oh, that looks interesting. So, part of the drill fell off. And we don't get to see much else of it. And then scrap mechanic, drilling and thunder. So this looks like an elevator, and this looks like the way you get in and out of the caves, which I'm assuming similar to the warehouses. It's an elevator where you go in and then you press the button and then you get like a bit of a cutscene and you teleport into a completely different sort of map, really, and it's entirely different. I guess that's just to save frames. I do have a question though. How do you get vehicles in? Because you can get vehicles into the warehouse, but they just have to be small enough that they can fit in the elevator. But with this, I mean, it looks like a significantly larger elevator, so I'm assuming you can fit significantly larger vehicles in. But I'm hoping that that's not a huge restriction. The solution to that would probably be if we could bring our lifts inside and just have a creation on our lift and then press a button from inside and then just, you know, carry on our lift, which isn't very realistic. It's not very immersive, but I don't know, I guess that might work, but I'm really hoping this isn't too much of a restriction in terms of getting into the caves. And as for the rest of the aesthetics, yeah, I mean, it looks very good. Again, typical scrap mechanic style. If they're going to do something, they're going to make sure it actually fits in with the rest of the game and just fits in with the general aesthetic, really. The elevator doors are opening and we can't really see much in there. It looks like a pretty big room. You can't see the side walls at all. So yeah, no, it does look quite large. Yeah, and the vehicle's rolling inside. What is that? They look like table legs, which is a part that we have right now, but why would you want to put those on the outside of your wheels? I have no idea. Sometimes in these trailers, the devs just put something on vehicles for no apparent reason, just to make us ask questions. I feel like this might be one of those, because this is completely pointless in the current game at least, and I can't really notice it. Oh, they placed down tomatoes manually instead of putting them in a chest or in your inventory. Yeah, very strange. But I'm assuming this is survival, and as far as I'm aware, these pieces aren't available in survival. I might be wrong, but I don't think they are, which is promising. And same with this. Actually, you might be able to craft that. I don't know. But yeah, that's promising. Wait, hold on. So are these. I don't think these are available in survival either. So hopefully this means that we finally have access to the full parts list in survival, and hopefully that means for creative as well, because in creative you can't have things like beds or cookbots or other survival exclusives. So hopefully there's just going to be a lot more consistency between the two. Since this is 1.0, I'm also hoping they've ironed out a lot of bugs and glitches, the big one being like the ground surface, really, terrain bounce and all of that stuff, which I don't think that's going to be fixed in chapter 2, but you know, maybe there's a small chance. Another thing I thought I'd mention is that this has also been teased in the past, so this is likely what you're going to see at the surface, but when you enter the elevator and go down, that's when you'll see the part of it that's in the trailer. Anyway, the update is called Drilling and Thunder. Drilling, pretty obvious, because there's a huge expansion to the whole drilling side of scrap mechanic. Thunder, that I'm a little bit confused about, because we saw thunder and lightning at the beginning of the trailer, but is that significant enough to be put in the name of the new update? Well, clearly it is, so I wonder what else the thunder can do to make it significant enough to be one of the 2 only words that are used in the name of this update. And July 24th, which hopefully they're not lying about that. It's 3 weeks away right now. And then we have this. So I have so many questions. There are so many things going on right now. So let's just look at the first frame where this comes in. We have this thing. This looks new. I've never seen this before. Same with this. No idea what that is. That's a tote bot. That's an explosion. I think that's what explosions look like right now, actually. He's holding a corn grenade. That looks like one of the explodey bots. That looks like a tote bot. That looks like a leg from some other bot. Maybe the explodey bot, maybe something else. Tote bot, again, another part from it. That looks like corn from the grenade. There's a lot of corn here. There's a lot of explosions. So I'm wondering how many grenades have been thrown before this clip started. Like, how many grenades you need to make something this, huge? I don't know. Anyway, over here, this looks like it's man-made terrain, which is very promising. Being able to make terrain yourself and not have to be, limited by what the game gives you by default. That is huge. And I really hope this is executed well, which I have very little doubt that it is. Yeah, so it looks to me that you sort of point and then click, and then it just sort of keeps going wherever you click, really similar to how you build with regular blocks. And I'm also assuming that these are going to be lag free, because they're going to be completely stuck into the ground and they're just going to be permanently there. I mean, I guess you could probably dig them back up again. I don't know, can you dig into the regular terrain? Because you can expand it clearly, but can you make it flatter? Who knows? This, what is that? This billboard, I guess. Yeah, and that's, okay, so we got some sticky wheels and another creation. That highlighted blue thing, that might be the same box that I was mentioning earlier. I don't know. And then we have a little hanging platform with a craft bot and I guess like a base of operations, some awnings. no idea what the point of those are. And what is that? I guess it's just a spinning cube. Does it spin? It does in fact spin. It might just be a spinning cube with lights on it. Nothing special. And then there seems to be a top part of that as well. I wonder what block that is. From afar, looks like a pretty big chunk. That might be the same as whatever this is. Maybe, or maybe that one actually. Yeah, I wonder what that is. I guess having bigger blocks like this would probably make stuff like this more viable. Because right now, if you had to craft many blocks individually, building a platform like this would be very expensive. But if we had, single parts that were really big and relatively cheap, we could block out massive structures and it wouldn't be nearly as expensive as if we had to use regular blocks, which, that seems promising. Then we have higher stories and a tote pot on top, and we can't really see anything else. That looks like the same part, or it might be a different part, like a railing or fence or something like that. Who knows? Anyway, over here, some other sort of base of operations, maybe, I don't know. A tank of some sorts, that might be aesthetic. And maybe if I wait till the corn moves out the way by a couple frames, we can see what exactly is going on there. So we have a vehicle here. Yeah, another one of those tanks, which I'm assuming are cosmetic because they don't really have any textures on them. Then we have this thing, which, is it moving at all? Right, well, this is like the last frame that we get access to whatever's going on behind here. Yeah, vehicle, and no idea what that is. Anyway, up here, that looks like another turret seat. This might just be one of the vehicles from earlier, really, that they've just reused and stuck in the background. And yeah, there's just corn flying everywhere. There's this thing, which, by the way it's moving, I don't think this has collisions. I think this is just, okay, it definitely doesn't have collisions then in that case. Anyway, that's gone now. They're flaming, there's fire. I'm assuming fire is like more of a thing in this game now, because even right now, every block or part, when you hover over them, it tells you if they're flammable or not, which as of right now doesn't mean anything because fire can't spread, it can only damage the player. But I'm assuming in the 1.0, fire will actually be a thing that you have to worry about. Maybe that's what lightning is going to do to creations, set them on fire. Or maybe it'll mess with the logic / other electronics. I don't know. Anyway, so the mechanic's moving a bit closer. We get a better look at this. Never mind, it's still pretty pixelated. I guess we weren't really meant to sort of zoom in frame by frame on this trailer, but the game looks quite nice. And as for lag, I'm not really noticing any. Okay, I noticed a little bit there. If you look down here, you can see what frame number I'm on. And you can see that as I go up a frame in the video, I'm not always going up a frame in the actual game. And that does mean that while this video's FPS is 60, the game's FPS is not 60. I don't know how I feel about that really. I mean, it's definitely playable, that's for sure. Like it looks very smooth, but it's not 60 FPS. That might just be because it's capped at 60 or something like that. I don't know. It also could be because there's a lot going on right now. There is a lot for the game to calculate. But speaking of physics and lag in general, I want to see how this game performs with two complicated creations interacting with each other instead of just, you know, blowing up a bunch of stuff with grenades or having a vehicle being dropped in with a bunch of loose parts and stuff like that. Because that isn't generally what you do with this game. Generally speaking, if you're going to make the game lag, it's usually because you have a complicated creation on its own or two complicated creations interacting with each other. That's usually where I get my lag problems in both creative and survival. So I want to see how they've addressed that problem, or if they've addressed that problem. But as of right now, general gameplay of just, you know, doing this, messing around, exploding stuff, using bots, and having multiple creations spawned in, because there's quite a few around the place, as well as structures and the sticky wheels and stuff. It's running at a pretty smooth frame rate, and it's very playable. And this frame, we have uncovered a couple other things. We have another mechanic there. That looks like it's an outfit that we already have, but I might be wrong. And then we have whatever's behind this tote bot, which I think that's man-made. That looks like a wheel. And that looks awfully big for a wheel, which I hope means that we're getting bigger wheels, because that's something I've always wanted in this game, because our wheels are just not big enough for some of the creations that I build, especially that mobile base that I built a while back. Anyway, that looks like a giant wall made of like extruded metal or something, I don't know, and it's painted. Actually, wait, hold on, that doesn't look like it was hand painted with the paint tool. That looks like it's some sort of decal. I don't know, what is that? Maybe they've updated painting in the game, who knows. I also see this thing, which is that what the bot that like pounces up and then drops down and slams into the ground on top of you? Might be. It is definitely a bot. Oh, that's a popcorn. Okay, we can get a better look at this vehicle now, which looks completely demolished, actually. Oh, that's gone. There we go. Yeah, okay. Those definitely look like wheels, and they look big. They look very big. This is off-road suspension. That means 1, and then it reaches the top of the off-road suspension, which is 3 blocks. So that's 3. So it's 7 blocks. That's a pretty big wheel. I am very excited to try out this wheel and maybe replace the old wheels with some of my really big creations and see how that works out. They look different to the regular wheels as well, so, you know, that looks quite nice. I'm assuming these are painted, and the unpainted version is going to look more like the scrap mechanic aesthetic with the yellow and black. But yeah, that looks very nice. Anyway, we have the explodey bots there. We get a better look at this thing. This one may be slightly more interesting, but we can't really see, and I still have no idea what this does. But we also get new wedges in survival, so that's good. That is very nice. Anyway, back here we have, I guess, another one of those bots that pounce up on you. No idea what this is. That looks like some sort of man-made creation. Is that the warehouse encryptor thingies? I don't know. Are those acquirable in survival now? Well, they were, but it was a bit more convoluted. I have no idea what that is. And now we get a better look at this graffiti wall, actually. And what is this? It's a small chest connected to a vacuum pump, but that looks black. That usually, if the vacuum pump is actually going to do something, that's lit up blue or green or red or something like that, but that's black, which leads me to believe that you can't use a vacuum pump on a small chest, which is understandable, to be fair. That does feel like a more higher end thing that you'd need more resources for a better chest to be able to do. This just seems like something that they just slapped on to make us ask questions, I guess, because they knew people were going to go through it frame by frame. Anyway, this, maybe that's what this is causing, because it was the same vehicle from earlier. Maybe they just used the seat turret to point the drills all the way up, or down in this case, because the vehicle's upside down, and they're drilling whatever this is. So the laser drills appear to be able to drill more than just rock, unless this is rock, because it might be rock. I've been thinking it's dirt this whole time, but it might be. Speaking of the dirt, it looks like some player behind this vehicle here, which I'm assuming is going to get revealed at some point. Alright, so we see a mechanic over there, and they've got this device in their hand, and it's shooting out dirt or rock. I think it's dirt. It's brown, so I'm assuming it's dirt. And it's sort of going everywhere, really. No, it's not. Never mind. I thought that was part of these particles, but it's not. So they're just shooting it in one direction, and it just goes off screen, and we can't really see what happens to them. Actually, we can. Oh, it looks like it sticks to the wall. Okay, so I don't think that's how you build with dirt. I think that might be a new weapon that you can use on certain bots. I wonder what happens when this thing gets hit by them. So it gets hit by a couple of them, actually. Does it get affected? As far as I can tell, it doesn't. It doesn't look like it got pushed or anything. I can't really tell if it got damaged, but that's a thing. Anyway, we get a better look at that, but again, there's nothing really that interesting over there. Over here, we just have a bunch of barrels, again, just to make us ask questions, I guess. No idea what that is. And yeah, the rest of it is just exploding. There's so much chaos going on around here. Anyway, clearly this is multiplayer, and it's running at a very playable frame rate, so I'm assuming that means that multiplayer is hopefully not as laggy anymore, and hopefully they fixed the huge issues with multiplayer. Anyway, we have other particles just sort of flying everywhere and can't really see what's going on. Another one of those pouncing robots, and yeah, that's the end of the trailer. Doesn't seem to be anything on the last frame. Yeah, that's the entire trailer gone through frame by frame. Now, there's actually a few other things that I've noticed, such as this thing. These look like another set part that's a lot bigger than some of the parts we already have, and that looks like some sort of cannon. It's not on the screen for very long. I'm just trying to see, does it actually shoot anything? So it comes into the screen about here, and it's just sort of sitting there, and then the explosions cover it, and that's the end of that scene. So it doesn't really do anything in this clip, but I'm wondering that maybe vacuum pumps? Maybe you can shoot something out of vacuum pumps? That one looks like it's open. Could you potentially shoot explosive canisters out of vacuum pumps? I highly doubt it, but that would be pretty sick. It would also make most of the tanks that I've built completely obsolete because they use very complicated ways of firing canisters, but if you could just fire them out of a vacuum pump, that would be pretty sick. Anyway, couple other things. This terrain looks like the half pipe that we have in creative, which leads me to believe that this is actually filmed in creative, which doesn't really make much of a difference, but that's just something to note. And of course, these things, they definitely look like they were man-made. Anyway, over here we can see this thing actually in action. So as I move forwards a couple more frames, you can see that eventually it starts falling, and then it has the particle effect. That's when it starts accelerating, and then it goes down and further, and it pounces on top of this vehicle that has the big wheels, and it eventually explodes. So this red thing looks like the little ring that gets affected in its explosion, which isn't that big, which is a good thing. But when it explodes, yeah, it has quite a powerful explosion, but it doesn't appear to damage much. The creation seems to be relatively intact, but we can't actually see the side that got hit, so I might be completely wrong about that, and these things might be an absolute menace to anything that you build in this game, which would be a shame, but you know, it'd be an interesting thing to design around. Anyway, here's something that Scrapman noticed. See this pouncing bot thing? As it goes up, it eventually reaches around about where this man-made terrain is. Then it explodes, and this ring appears to actually change its angle to match the angle of the terrain that it's hitting. And when it explodes, everything gets obscured by a lot, and then we go forwards a couple frames and it's still obscured, and then we come back to it and that same spot looks completely different. We go back a few frames at that same spot before it exploded, you can see that it doesn't have that spiky bit to it, does it? Whereas afterwards, it's got that spike and like the shadows are more extreme. So this is something Scrapman noticed, and this could potentially mean that these bots, when they explode, they can actually cause damage to the terrain, which could potentially detach buildings. So that is definitely something interesting if it is actually a thing. Anyway, back here, this could be fireworks. That's another thing that Scrapman noticed that I completely missed. Throughout this entire clip, you notice there's actually been fireworks going on in this corner. So there's one over there, it's gonna explode, and then there's fireworks, and then there's gonna be another one over there. And if I zoom in, there is gonna be like one frame where you can actually see it get fired. So that one, no, there we go. That looks to be a firework. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that these are just fireworks and they're going off in the background. And I originally did assume that this particle was coming from this vehicle firing down on there, but I don't think that's the case. I think this is just sort of there doing nothing, and this is from the firework, so never mind. Anyway, a couple other things I wanted to mention about the early game is that this thing that chases the mechanic at the very start, this appears to be some sort of early game thing that you encounter. That's another thing that Scrapman noticed, because as you can see, the mechanic is still using, you know, the default clothing, which leads us to believe that this is a very early game experience, and maybe this is the intended way to find the mechanic station, because you can see them running to the mechanic station. So maybe this thing just sort of chases you to the mechanic station, and obviously that's like a safe space, and then it goes away. And maybe this doesn't damage you, maybe it's just scanning for players, and then if it detects one, it sends a couple bots over to try and get you out of there. I don't know, maybe. I mean, we've never seen this before, so your guess is about as good as mine. Anyway, another thing I noticed is that this creation, it might just be behind whatever this is, but it doesn't appear to have a chemical container. It's either behind this or behind this, but as far as we can see in this shot, it doesn't have a chemical container yet. It still has the sticky wheels, so that's interesting. Maybe similar to how you don't necessarily need a battery container on a vehicle to power an engine, you can just sort of put the batteries directly into the engine. Maybe you can put the chemicals directly onto the wheel, but it just won't last as long because you don't have, as big of a supply, as opposed to this vehicle that, I mean, it could be something else, but I feel like it's pretty safe to assume that is in fact a chemical container. Anyway, over in this area with the tunneling bot thingies, you could see at the very back that there is actually a light, and in the next scene you can see that very same light with the X in the middle, and in this one you can also see the X, which leads me to believe that this scene and this scene might actually be connected. Maybe this is the route you have to take to get to the elevator to get in and out of the cave system, and maybe that's where the mechanic's going, because clearly they're going somewhere, so maybe they're just trying to get out of the cave to escape whatever the hell these things are. Also, another thing, look at this exploding tote bot. Look at this exploding bot. If I play it in full speed, just take a look at how fast that thing moves. It's like zooming across the map. Those things are insanely fast. I don't know how you're supposed to build defenses around it. I'm assuming we're going to have new blocks, parts, and other interactives that we can actually use to defend against all these new bots, because in the current game, I would really struggle to design a farm defense that will, actually defend against waves full of pouncing, exploding bots, and bots that run at you at full speed to explode two canisters, bots that can shoot you with tape and kill you in 2 hits. Like, we need armor in the game. I feel like that is probably going to be added, and of course we need better ways to defend against things. And also about this graffiti wall here, this might be some sort of Easter egg, because this thing is new. That might be a glow bug. No idea what that is. This looks to be some sort of structure of some sorts, and just sort of particle effects everywhere else, and another one of those creatures over there. So maybe the glow bug has a friend. Maybe this is something you find somewhere else in like a chemical pond or something. I doubt it, but that might be something new. And also just the paint in general. This might not be a decal. We might be getting an update to painting so that we can paint more intricate things. That might also explain the suspension thing that I noticed earlier, where the suspension on this vehicle right over here, part of it is painted red, but the rest of it is default, and this one is completely different, where the top part is the regular color. So we might be getting an update to paint. You might be able to paint each individual part of a piece separately, which would be incredibly good. There have been so many times where I wanted to paint something, but it's just not paintable in the right areas, and I wasn't able to use the part. But this could be a huge leap forwards for vanilla aesthetics in this game. Now, there are some things that weren't mentioned in this trailer. Granted, it's only like a 36-second trailer, so I'm not entirely surprised, but there was no mention of fluid physics, so aerodynamics or water-based things. There was no mention of that, so I'm starting to think that maybe they didn't change anything, and it's the same concept of, to make something float, just slap a bunch of bubble block on it, use some buoyant blocks, and call it a day, which is a shame. I really was hoping that they would have added something similar to Stormworks, where to make something float you actually have to have, like a hull filled with air and stuff, where the less dense stuff floats and the more dense stuff sinks. But there is a chance that that is not the case in chapter 2, because if it was, I feel like that's a pretty big part of the game that they probably should have mentioned in the trailer. And the fact that these bot capsule things are still using thrusters also leads me to believe that propellers aren't gonna be a thing. I mean, maybe I'm gonna get proved wrong, because obviously they can't just reveal everything in a trailer, then that would sort of defeat the purpose of the trailer. But that's just what my initial thoughts are. I'm really hoping I am wrong though, because fluid based physics would be so nice to have. You'd actually be able to build aerial based creations in survival whilst being actually viable. Like having wings wings so that you could get up into the air without having to use as much fuel on downwards facing thrusters would be huge. Like, that would make flight so much better in survival, but it's not looking that likely. And another thing is interactives. So right now, if you want to interact with something, you press your use button and then you get some options, but you don't get very many options. Let's just take the piston for example. You can adjust its distance and its speed, and that's about it. But you can't adjust its strength. You can't adjust its progressive stiffness if you want to use it for suspension. You can't really adjust much of the stuff that you'd probably want to adjust, which is a shame. And I'm hoping in this chapter that you might be able to adjust things a little bit more. So with suspension, you can not only adjust the stiffness, but also how much that stiffness changes as you compress it more and more. Or for a piston, you could adjust its strength and speed separately, because right now strength and speed have like a positive correlation where the faster it is, the stronger it is, but that's kind of the opposite of how it works in real life. Usually you'd gear something down so that it's really strong but really slow, and if it's really fast then it's not very strong. So that's kind of counterintuitive. So hopefully that is something that will get changed. Now, as for my last few thoughts about this trailer in general, I'm really hoping this isn't going to be the last update for Scrap Mechanic, because Card Gaming did say that this might just be their excuse for completely abandoning the game, but for real this time, because it has been very clear that they didn't really want to work on this game. Because if they were like, actually passionate about updating this game, they would have gotten this update to us a long time ago. But the fact that it's taken this long just goes to show that either this is an absolutely massive revolutionary update that was 100% worth the wait, or it's just them spending a whole bunch of time on something that probably wouldn't have taken that much time, just so that they can get it over with and say that the official release is here, they don't have to touch the game anymore, and they can just sort of work on their other stuff, because Axolot Games does have other things, other games that they would probably much rather be working on, since Scrap Mechanic isn't that profitable, I'd imagine. So it is possible that they update to 1.0 and then just leave it and then just let us just deal with the rest of the game on our own, and that's the end of that. So we might not get a chapter 3, but I really hope that's not the case. I really hope this is the point where they start afresh and actually start updating the game regularly, and instead of giving us one massive update every 6 years, they instead give us smaller updates every couple months, like pretty much every other game out there. But regardless, I'm just happy to have some new content finally, and it does actually look really cool. This trailer has me asking a lot of questions, and it has me excited for a lot of things. And when it releases, I am fairly certain that there will be a huge spike in the player count, because that's exactly what happened with Survival. But I don't think it's going to be as big as it was with Survival, but it will still make the player base spike. And then it's going to stay pretty high for a couple days, weeks, months, I don't know, depending on how much content Chapter 2 actually adds and how much there is other than what we've seen in this trailer. But let's just say the hype lasts for a couple months. Then after that, of course, it's just going to die down and down and down, and it's just gonna come back to where we are right now, where there's very few players, but we play pretty regularly, and yeah, it's just gonna stay that way until the next update, if that happens. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today. See ya.